Well, there we go, my friends. A little twin spin from our guest today, Carl Dobkins Jr. We had Take Hold of My Hand and My Pledge to You. And on the other end of this phone, I have the man that sang those tunes, Carl Dobkins Jr. Hi, Carl.
Hi, how you doing, Joe?
I'm doing great. How are you today?
I'm well. A shout out to all your fans up in Syracuse area.
Thank you, thank you. We here at Oldies Plus are thrilled that you are taking a part of your day to be here with us. Man, you have had a phenomenal career in the music business, and I understand that your family moved to Cincinnati, and you were born in Cincinnati, right?
Right. They made it across the river before the wagon broke down.
That's great. And I understand also that while you were in high school, you started writing some songs and cut a demo record.
Right.
And I guess you went over to Fraternity Records, huh?
Well, Fraternity was based here in Cincinnati. Since then, it's been went out of business, and someone had purchased the label. But Harry Carlson owned the label, and he was based here in Cincinnati. In fact, they've had several hits. The All-American Boy with. Well, actually, they said it was Bobby Bear on the record, but they put another name on the label, supposedly.
Yeah, Bill Parsons.
Right. And then they had, Then You Can Tell Me Goodbye with the Casinos. Gene, a good friend of mine that passed away it's been a while now, I guess 3 or 4 years. But they've, So Rare, Tommy Dorsey Band, Memphis with Ronnie Mac.
Mm-hmm.
So they were quite successful.
Yeah, they were. An interesting note, a lot of folks that don't know, but the junior on the end of your name, all right? Now, I was reading an article, and it said that because you were 16 years old when you cut your first record, that they put junior on the end. Now, is that true?
Well, there's a couple of different versions. The one I remember was my father's name was Carl Dobkins, but he didn't have a middle initial. Oh. And so my manager said, Carl Dobkins, let's put Junior on the back of it, and that'll be kind of a catchy thing. So that's what they did. They put Junior on the back, and that was my manager's decision.
Wow. And it stuck with you. All these years, you're still Carl Dobkins Jr. How about that?
CarlDobkinsJr.com.
There you go. Now, your first recording didn't chart, the one on Fraternity. But
Harry Carlson was a real gentleman. It didn't chart, and in fact, he kind of did it as a favor to my manager. And my first record was I took up the time that was left over on a Kathy Carr recording session.
Oh, wow.
The Ivory Tower.
Sure, yeah.
And the Jordanaires were there, Elvis's backup group of vocals, and they were getting ready to leave to join him in Hawaii or somewhere. And I was like 17 years old and eyes as big as silver dollars. really take it in. But the thing didn't do very well, and so we went to King Records Studio and basically said to the band and the vocal group, well, it was the seniors at the time who my manager also managed, and said, look, if we sell the demo or the dub to someone, the master, not the dub, the master, then you'll get paid. If not, it's just experience. Is that okay? And they said, yeah, fine. So they did the first one, and we sold it to Decca, and it became. Back then, the big labels had their own promotion people in areas or in cities, and Charleston, West Virginia had a promotion man down there that was really good, and he hyped that thing, and I got If You Don't Want My Lovin' was #1 for 6 weeks in a row in Charleston, West Virginia.
Wow.
They gave me a key to the city. I've got the honorary citizenship. So and it made some noise. It got on the charts for about 3 weeks at 67, and so they brought me then to Nashville to go ahead and record some more, which resulted in my Heart's an Open Book.
Well, okay, and everybody knows that one. So when you went and recorded My Heart is an Open Book, you had some fabulous people down there too, didn't you? I understand that Owen Bradley was...
Owen Bradley, they kind of what they used to call the Slewfoot Five or whatever. It had Grady Martin playing guitar, Hank Garland, Murray on the drums, Owen's brother playing different instruments, and the Anita Kerr singers. So they would just crank out hit after hit after hit.
Sure.
And when the session was over there, they'd pack up their instruments and then go up the street to, say, Capitol or to RCA and record. So and he was very talented, and it was in the Owen Bradley Studios, and now they've recently redone that the Quonset hut that was in the back.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And they originally filmed the Grand Ole Opry back there. I say film, literally film, because there wasn't videotape back then. So they, up on the studio itself, it was painted the inside of it. It looked like a barn. But there was also a studio in the house that had been turned into a business in the front, and it had a studio in the basement. So.
Now, I understand that, you cut My Heart is an Open Book, and it took a while for it to hit the charts. I guess, according to what I've read, that it took about 6 months for the record to actually take off.
That's right. At that time, Decca wasn't known that much for rock and roll or for younger artists, other than like Brenda Lee was on there, but it wasn't known that much for. So my manager would call promotion people and say, "Gee, can he come in?" And used to go in and you'd do the record hop.
Sure.
And they said, "Oh, we don't." And back then it wasn't country and western; it was hillbilly. We don't do hillbilly artists in this town. Yeah. So finally, he talked somebody in Detroit into let me come into town, and I went to was Tom Clay. The station that he was with, and yes, that name was connected with payola, but we didn't pay anything, believe me. But it was a Light Guard Armory in the Detroit area, and they would have, 4,000 or 5,000 kids at these record hops. So we went up there and performed, and like the next week they called, "Oh, you got to come back. This thing's really taking off." So went back up, and then that next time I'm trying to think, what did I do? Like 4 or 5 record hops in one night, just jump in a car, go to the next one, and then one of them was also over in Canada, across the river in Windsor. But the record broke from there to Cleveland and in other big areas, and they had to send out new disc jockey copies to the disc jockeys because...
Sure, they probably forgot about it. Yeah, I know how that worked. Now, once the record took off, it went all the way up to number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100, and sold over 1 million copies, and you got a gold record for that. And the thing that's amazing to me, Carl, is that it spent 24 weeks on the chart. I mean, that was unheard of back then.
Almost a half year.
Yeah, I can remember some of the tunes would come up to charts. They would be golden oldies after about 4 weeks.
Yeah. Well, Lucky Devil got to number 25, and it was on 17 weeks, which is all. And Exclusively Yours was at 62 for 8 weeks. So at least, I wasn't completely a one-hit wonder.
Oh, no, that's for sure.
On the charts.
That's for sure, and in fact, I will verify that because I'm one of those guys that went out and bought your 45s. I can remember.
Well, I appreciate it.
Yeah, the picture sleeves, Carl Dobkins Jr. I tell you, the girls all, well, Carl. And I love spitting those tunes. Exclusively Yours. I love that. I love that song.
Thank you. I did that on the Dick Clark show, and in fact, I have a video of it, and show it to my grandkids, and they say, "Wow, that's you, Grandpa." Yep, that's me.
Now, I understand that after you graduated from high school, you went right on the Dick Clark show, and gee, you were on there how many times?
About 14 times, between the afternoon dance party show that was in Philadelphia and then the Saturday night show that was from the little theater in New York, and that was really a big deal. I mean, you had your own little dressing room, and they put makeup on you, and the guy got this one man. The only job he had was to hold up the Wrigley spearmint gum. Was it? I think it was the chewing gum they advertised.
Yeah.
He would hold that up in front of the camera. That was his job, and I guess he got paid well for it.
Now that was all lip syncing, right?
Yeah, right.
So you had to know the words really
Clark,
good.
You couldn't ask for a nicer guy. He would come up. He'd give you a right arm to be on a show like that for the exposure.
Sure.
He would come up and make you think that you did him a favor.
Wow.
Thank you. Thanks for coming on the show. I appreciate it. So, with him, what you saw was what you got. I was fortunate enough to spend an evening with him in Philadelphia. I did the afternoon show, and I was in Fort Dix. Well, guys like me, they put in the infantry, so I was training. And I had a weekend pass, so I got off and I went and did the show. And he said, "Would you mind going with me? Got a couple of record hops to make tonight." And I said, "No, I don't mind." And like I said, I spent the evening with him, and what you saw was what you got. It wasn't only put on him up front. So.
If Dick Clark played your records on his show, I mean, you can bet that they were going to be hits.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the way it was. And
I don't know if today's quandary or whatever you would call it is the same as back then. In order to get a hit, you need it played.
That's right.
But you need it played to get a hit.
That's right.
And if it wasn't a hit, they wouldn't play it. So it was just kind of a vicious circle.
I think that a lot of our younger listeners don't realize, Carl, the amount of 45s that were actually sent to radio stations in a given week during those days. That's why some fabulous music never made it, never got played. I mean, because
there was a book by, I think the guy's name's Wilburn.
Joel Whitburn?
Yeah, I think it is. The top 1,000 between 1955 and 1985. Well, I looked in the book, and mine in the back, I can't remember, but it was in the 900s, and I thought, well, gee, that wasn't that great. I thought I'd be more than that. Well, then I read the preface of the book, and it says over 100,000 records were released during that time, and I thought, wow.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Really lucky to get in the top 1,000. But you would think that somebody like Chuck Berry would have several in there, Every kid that learns to play the guitar back then would have to learn the riff for Johnny Be Good and Maybelline and Sweet Little 16. The only record that he had that made the top 1,000 was My Ding-a-Ling, which was later on in the 70s.
Well, yeah, I think that was his last hit.
Based on sales, Billboard sales, and the volume just wasn't there back then. Or you'd see a hit like, to me, I remember Delta Dawn being by. Can't think of her name now. She was only 14 years old.
Tanya Tucker.
That's right, yeah. And she wasn't listed in there, but Anne Murray's version was. So it was kind of weird. You expected to be in there, weren't, and things you didn't expect to be in there were there.
Yeah. Now, also, I understand that Carl Dobkins Jr. also was cutting versions of movie themes, such as Pretty Little Girl in the Yellow Dress, huh? How about that?
Yeah, they show that movie every once in a while on cable. The Last Sunset. Rock Hudson was in it, Kirk Douglas, Carol Lindley, a couple others I can't think of right offhand. But Kirk Douglas sings it to Carol Lindley when he's dancing with her in the movie.
Yeah, so 18 singles you recorded in your career. Wow.
Yeah, you were asking me earlier about where to get some of those oddball records. Well, every once in a while I'll do a search with my name on eBay, and there are those oddballs. I said, where do they get these things? The thing I had on Colpix label, on the Chalet label. Some of them will even pop up with subsidiaries of Decca. But
weren't you on ADCO for a while too?
Yeah, ADCO, right.
Yeah.
But Air Family Records has a CD with all 25, or I'm sorry, with 25, however many